With the growing calls for the 2020 academic year to be abandoned, early childhood development is also in limbo for many children during this time, a very difficult one. While some school children can afford to skip school to avoid COVID-19 infection, what will be the impact of missing out on the critical early childhood development phase? Let's get some answers from Andre Viviers, who is an education manager focusing on early childhood development at UNICEF SA. A very good evening to you, and thank you so much for speaking to us. So before we find out what UNICEF is doing, but perhaps let's talk about early childhood development, what we really mean by this. I think sometimes when we talk about these terms, we don't have an actual sense of what we're talking about.
Yes, thank you for asking that. Around early childhood development, and in particular, that's the early phase in life. So roughly, it actually starts before birth. But what we talk about here or this evening is from birth up until school-going age. So around about the age 5 and 6. And that is everything that happened in that phase of life. And what we talk, or maybe more specifically, is the early learning component, which is the stimulation, the engagement, the environment, and the play that young children do at this age that are important for their social development, their cognitive development, and preparation for life.
And I ask this question because in the midst of protests on the reopening of schools within some quarters, there's been a question raised by many about, do grade Rs really need to go back to school?
I think the whole issue of going back to school or not going back to school is, what is it? What is needed at this stage in particular? And I mean, as far as, and I know the Department of Basic Education has indicated that grade R learners can go back to school. And if all the basic safety measures and prevention measures can be put in place, and the staff know what to do, then it should in general not be a problem for young children to return to an early childhood development program that provides early learning, which include grade R in this instance. But I again say all the measures need to be in place to make sure that the program is conducted in a manner that provides sufficient protection to young children.
So what is UNICEF itself doing in ramping up support to prepare for ECD centres reopening, given these unprecedented challenges of COVID-19?
What UNICEF basically is doing is we draw from our international experience because UNICEF work in most countries across the globe, and the COVID-19 pandemic is, one of those things that actually do have an impact across the world. And to see how other countries are approaching the whole issue of returning, especially of children, to early childhood development. The one thing that we do need to keep in mind in all the advice that we do provide from UNICEF side is that everything is new. So we learn as we go on. But it has been found with certain adaptations that it is possible for young children to return back. And we do provide government, in particular, with technical advice and inputs, specifically in relation to what the factors are that need to be considered for the return of children through our international experience, but also through just our local expertise that we bring in.
Just in terms of areas of support for delivering necessary supplies, especially providing health and hygiene information, what can you do to help these ECD centres, and what has been international best practice?
What we do basically at this point is to provide easy to use materials, for example, and suggestions on how to do, for example, symptom screening upon entry. What is the basic steps that need to be provided? Also, getting advice from the Pediatric Association in South Africa, but also globally around whether young children should wear masks, how they should wear masks, how social distancing should work, and a range of other issues, that we do provide the information to the respective government departments as well as to civil society to say these are the measures that need to be put in place, because we must remember when we work with young children, it's a very unique age. And they might not understand everything in the same way that we do. And also to give some information as well. And we work very closely with the Department of Social Development and the Department of Basic Education around providing information to parents also on what they can do at home to assist young children and to prepare young children either to continue their early learning at home or when they return to early childhood.
And I'm glad you talk about parents, because there has been the question around not only protecting children from infection, but also against toxic stress as a result of COVID-19. What advice would you give?
Well, the most important thing, I think, that advice that I would give to parents during this whole time is, first of all, don't think your child don't know. Children have a very good sense of what is going on in their environment, and they know there is something going on, even if they are very young. So be honest with them. Tell them what is going on without instilling fear in them or anxiety. Answer their questions honestly. And also make sure that they are engaged. And observe them, because very often children make meaning of these complex situations or information through play. Remember, young children think at a very concrete level, not at an abstract level. And when we talk about COVID-19 and all the measures, it's actually very abstract. So children will make meaning of that through play. So that is the one thing that parents should also keep in mind, is when they talk to children about everything that's happening, is do it in a playful manner, because that's a concrete way for kids to understand. Help them to understand why people wear masks and why some people need to keep social distancing, why they cannot go and visit grandma and grandpa because of all the reasons of risk and all of that. And just talk to the children. Don't just isolate. And that is the starting point. For parents in particular, and keep them at home, let they continue a very playful manner, early learning activities such as building with blocks, playing games, and all of those things, because that also helps them to keep on track with their development.
Thank you so much for speaking to us, Andre Viviers, Education Manager focusing on early childhood development at UNICEF SA.